From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Thursday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us.
And I'm Ed McIntosh as we've got a change in the weather pattern that's going to stick around for a while. Instead of talking about record warm temperatures and fire potential, all of a sudden it's going to feel a little more like December. Although the outlook for a white Christmas doesn't look all that encouraging at this point. We do have a few flurries around this morning. You see some of those low clouds with the First Interstate ICAM, and those clouds have insulated the area and held the temperatures at 33 at the airport. But the winds considerably lighter than we've seen for day after day here recently, and the humidity considerably higher across the area as well. Now we're looking at temperatures regionally into the single digits and teens in a few locations. How about right now 14 in Butte? Then we have some 20s, 30s, a lot of 20s and 30s across eastern Montana and northern Wyoming to get going, which a little bit warmer than average, but we're not going to warm up a lot for the afternoon. Winds are generally light. Most of the winds are less than 10 miles an hour this morning, where we've been seeing much higher winds, and the humidity considerably higher. At least there's a little bit closer to the surface here in the short term. Temperatures in southern Montana and northern Wyoming mainly into the 20s and 30s to get our morning started. So overall it's fairly comfortable. There will be those low clouds around early, some breaks in the clouds later in the afternoon. The highs moving up close to 40 degrees, but we catch a little more sun later in the day. I'll tell you more about that and the outlook for the weekend coming up in a couple of minutes.
All right, sounds like a plan, and I will get on to the news. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Our top story this Thursday: the man shot by a U.S. Marshal in the Billings Heights this week drove a vehicle at the officers right before the shooting. U.S. Marshals with the Montana Violent Defender Task Force were trying to arrest 36-year-old Richard Martinez on warrants Tuesday afternoon on the 600 block of Claus Circle. When he drove at them, one of the marshals fired a shot. Martinez was treated for injuries and is now out of the hospital and in the Yellowstone County Jail. A wild car chase has Muscle Shoals County authorities asking for your help this morning. Around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, sheriff deputies started following a suspect on Highway 87 North outside of Roundup. The driver sped away, driving erratically and forcing southbound vehicles off the road. The chase continued through Petroleum County all the way into Fergus County. The Muscle Shoals County Sheriff's Office is asking anyone who encountered the suspect's vehicle along the chase route to call them. The number is 323-1402. They needed a description of the vehicle you were driving and where you were when you saw the suspect. In Missoula, a manhunt that lasted more than a day is over as police arrest the suspect accused of killing a man in the parking lot of an apartment complex. 33-year-old Christopher Newrider was taken into custody yesterday afternoon back at the apartment where the shooting happened. The victim, Sundance Hernandez, was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head on Tuesday afternoon. Newrider surrendered peacefully, and police say they will continue to investigate what led to the shooting. Making national headlines this morning, President-elect Joe Biden's son Hunter revealed the U.S. attorney in Delaware is investigating his taxes. This as the elder Biden's historic pick to lead the Pentagon may face some challenges getting confirmed. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has the latest.
Hunter Biden revealed Wednesday his taxes are under investigation. CBS News has learned the FBI had been looking into his finances since 2018. But law enforcement didn't actively pursue the case during the weeks leading up to the presidential election, keeping with Justice Department policy to not influence the race. The president-elect's son said he's confident a review will find he acted legally and appropriately. Meanwhile, the elder Biden formally announced retired four-star Army General Lloyd Austin as his pick to run the Pentagon.
Given the urgent threat and challenges of our nation's forces, he should be confirmed swiftly.
If confirmed, Austin would be the first African-American Secretary of Defense. But having retired in 2016, he hasn't been away from the military long enough and will need what's called a civilian waiver.
I come to this role, this new role, as a civilian leader, with military experience to be sure, but also with a deep appreciation and reverence for the prevailing wisdom of civilian control of our military.
Here in Washington, it's been more than a month since Election Day, and President Trump still isn't willing to concede. The latest effort to overturn the election comes from Texas, where the Attorney General is filing a lawsuit in the Supreme Court against 4 key states won by President-elect Biden.
The lawsuit alleges Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan changed voting laws that led to election irregularities. The suit is now being backed by President Trump and more than a dozen states. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
And Montana is now one of those 17 states asking the U.S. Supreme Court to accept a lawsuit looking to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Montana Attorney General Tim Fox says the odds of the High Court accepting the late lawsuit filed by Texas are slim at best. But the Republican AG says the case raises important constitutional questions about the integrity of mail-in ballots. Many legal experts say Texas does not have standing to challenge election results from other states. In court news, the man accused in the attack of a Montana Highway Patrol trooper and the death of 2 others is being sent to Warm Springs for a mental evaluation. Back in June, Jonathan Birch pleaded guilty to shooting Shelley Hayes, Julian Casey Blanchard, and Trooper Wade Palmer last year. But a doctor who examined Birch's mental health status now says he needs further examination before he can be in court again. The evaluation could take 2 months to complete. A camp for troubled children in Lincoln County has its license permanently removed after serious allegations of abuse. State officials pulled more than 20 children from the Rexford Ranch for Kids in July of 2019. Health officials say the children were forced to go on disciplinary walks in the wilderness without weather-appropriate clothing. Other abuses include food restrictions, withholding phone calls to parents, and withholding medical attention. The state's legal team called the license removal a win for the state of Montana and victims of child abuse and neglect. A human rights complaint will finally be heard after some employees within the state corrections department say they were let go for criticizing management. MTN's Mike Dennison brings us the details.
In a 2018 reorganization at the State Department of Corrections, the agency's government relations director, Adrienne Cotton, had her position eliminated. Several months earlier, she had accused Department Director Reg Michael of sexual harassment and said her dismissal was a form of retaliation. Cotton made that claim in a human rights complaint filed against the state. And next Monday, that complaint finally gets a formal hearing before a State Department of Labor hearings officer in Helena. The hearing is expected to run several days, and the witness list includes Cotton, Michael, former DOC employees, and Governor Steve Bullock's former chief of staff, who signed off on the 2018 reorganization. The Corrections Department declined to comment this week, but Michael has consistently denied the charges, and the Bullock administration says a personnel investigation did not substantiate them either. It also has said the reorganization in no way targeted any specific employees. Cotton and other former employees think differently, and some may testify at the hearing. They say the reorganization, in part, was meant to get rid of employees who had criticized agency management as ineffective, or who had expressed support for accusations that Michael had harassed or mistreated women at the office. Cotton's initial complaint was rejected last year by the head of the State Human Rights Bureau. But in a rare move, the full State Human Rights Commission on Cotton's appeal decided to reinstate the complaint, leading eventually to next week's hearing. The hearing begins at 9 a.m. Monday. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
If the hearings officer rules in Cotton's favor, she could be awarded damages. Cotton has also filed a separate wrongful discharge lawsuit, which has been on hold while the human rights complaint proceeds. Turning now to the latest on the pandemic, the U.S. has broken a single-day coronavirus death toll. More than 3,000 Americans died from COVID-19 complications yesterday. The average daily death toll has been around 2,200. Wednesday also saw a new record of COVID-19 patients admitted to the hospital, with more than 106,000 people. Hospitals in several states are reportedly running out of ICU beds. The U.S. is poised to take a big step forward in the fight against COVID-19. An FDA advisory panel will vote today on whether to recommend emergency use authorization for Pfizer's vaccine. Nearly 3 million doses could be shipped across the country this week if the committee gives its approval. The committee will likely look at the United Kingdom, where the same vaccine rolled out earlier this week. Canada approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine yesterday. Meanwhile, there's still a stalemate on a stimulus package and the clock is ticking. Congress is trying to get a bill passed soon because aid programs that were approved in March, including jobless assistance measures and eviction protections, expire before the end of the year. Yesterday, the House passed a short-term funding bill that moves the deadline of a government shutdown to December 18th, buying more time for pandemic relief negotiations. The stopgap bill now heads to the Senate, where it is expected to pass. Today, the director of Montana's division of the U.S. Small Business Administration will hit the road with the goal of visiting a small business in all 56 counties. It's his way of highlighting success stories during the pandemic. Small businesses make up 99% of all businesses in Montana. Brent Donnelly begins his tour in Helena with 3 goals in mind at each stop.
This tour is all about being able to continue to encourage those small businesses that have the grit and resolve to face the COVID challenges that they have for the last 9 months, number one. Number two, raise and highlight some awareness of all these things these businesses have done to respond to that. And then finally, and probably most importantly, urge Montanans to, through their holiday shopping season, shop local, eat local, spend your money in your hometown to the best of your ability, because it really does matter.
The tour will stop in Yellowstone County next Thursday to meet with the Produce Depot.